Yeah, move a little further black. All right, now for the proverb of the day, what do we have today? Let's see. This is one from Ethiopia. It's a Gala proverb, and it goes like this. One is born, one dies, the land increases. One is born, one dies, the land increases. And that's an Ethiopian proverb from the Gala people. Now, we're going to do this is not a poem. This is just a little selection here out of the African American Book of Values. And this particular one was shared with us by a person we know as Skip Gates. You might know him better as Lewis Henry Gates Jr. Let's see what it says here. Now, this one is called Eternity. A man is talking to the Lord, trying to fathom his infinitude. Lord, he asked, what's a million years to you? A million years is a second to me, the Lord explains. And $1 million? A penny, the Lord replies. Lord, the man proceeds to ask, emboldened now, would you give me $1 million? Sure, the Lord replies. Just give me a second. Oh, yeah, I thought that one was good. I like that one. Just give me a second. That was too good to pass up. So that's our quote unquote, our poem for the day. Moving on. We're moving into, I believe it's part 4 of the story about Mekatilili Menza. And this one is called A New Home. This is a long one here. We might have to divide it in half. We'll see. See how far we get today. Okay, check our time. So here we go. A few years later, this is after they returned from going to her first trip to Mombasa. A few years later, there was drought and there were no crops to sell in Mombasa. Moreover, it was getting harder to grow enough food to feed everyone in the Kaya. Menza had heard that there was fertile land in the north on the Sabaki River. This river flows to the east from Mount Kilimanjaro into the Indian Ocean. He decided to move his family there. Menza and his family packed up their things and started off on a journey of several days to the north. They moved north along the coastal ridge through rich forest full of mango trees and coconuts. Mekatilili, who was always asking questions, asked her mother why they had left the Kaya to move to a distant place. Well, my daughter, as you know, there has been a drought, began her mother. The rains have failed now for 3 seasons. Mekatilili thought for a little while. Won't the rains come, Mama? Well, my daughter, eventually they will, replied her mother, but we don't know when. Without rain, the fields on the slopes near the Kaya have not been able to produce enough food to feed all of us. Some of us have to move to other land. And with no millet or maize, we wouldn't be able to buy beautiful cloth in Mombasa, asked Mekatilili. Yes, and sometimes it can get so bad that we would have to buy food on the coast instead of selling it. It happened before. Many years ago, there was a terrible famine. Mekatilili's mother said the people called it kingo, animal skin, because they had to soak their dried bedding skins in water and then eat them. That sounds very unappealing. Oh no, cried Mekatilili. It was the only way for them to stay alive, my daughter. That was how bad it was. It lasted for several years. And in the north, there is no drought, asked Mekatilili. In the north, there is a big river. We are going to live near that river and so if the rains fail, it won't be so bad. After several days of trekking northward through the forest, the family reached the Sabaki River. Menza found a good piece of land near the river and built a new homestead in the middle of rich, fertile land. Mekatilili soon got used to the daily routine. She always joined her mother and other women who worked in the fields. It was a good place to farm. There were many good neighbors nearby on both banks of the Sabaki River. Grew millet, beans, and maize. There were also mangoes and cashews, coconuts, and bananas. It was peaceful. Over the years, Mekatilili grew into a beautiful, strong young woman with an independent spirit. One day, her mother approached her, carrying her stool. Mekatilili knew this meant that she had something important to say and needed to sit down comfortably. "How are things with you, mother?" asked Mekatilili in greeting. "Very good, my daughter," replied her mother. After some talk about general matters in the family and in the kaya, Mekatilili's mother cleared her throat as if to begin the real purpose of the conversation. "Mekatilili, it is time that you think about marriage," she began, "and we have found you a good husband." Mekatilili knew she was reaching the age of marriage, and so she was not surprised by this news, but she was not entirely happy either. "Mother, I wish I could choose my own husband," she said. "That is not the way of our people, my daughter," replied her mother. Mekatilili had her own independent ideas, but she also believed strongly in the customs of the Gidiyama. She would never go against the rules of the Kaya and the Kambi, the group of most respected elders. And so she prepared to get married. When the wedding day came, drums sounded and everyone gathered with excitement. There were dances and songs. There was a big feast, and people had prepared many gourds full of tambo, the ceremonial beer made of fermented coconut juice. After the wedding, Mekatilili went with her new husband to his home in a village called Masindani, north of the Sabaki River. She liked the place and settled down to take care of the crops and the animals. She did not see her family as many times as she would have wanted, and she missed them, but she was content. Like her father, her husband was a trader and frequently went into Malindi town, a day's journey away, to trade. Late one day, Mekatilili heard people talking excitedly in the village and went out to find out what had happened. People were gathered around a big baobab tree in the center of the village. A stranger was in the midst of the people, and he was telling a frightening story. "We met these people just as we were crossing the Sabaki River. There were some Wazungu, white people, but there were some people from inland too," the man explained. He paused to look at Mekatilili. She immediately grew anxious. "Well, the Wazungu had those guns that they kill people, that can kill people instantly. We had no time to fight back. And when some of us tried to resist, they hit us with the guns, and some people even died." The man paused for a moment. Mekatilili was by now so tense she could have snapped. "Mekatilili, your husband and a few others were taken away. I managed to escape because I was near the riverbank and was able to slide back into the water." "Are you telling me that my husband has been captured?" asked Mekatilili. "Yes," said the man. "I am sorry." "Taken away where?" gasped Mekatilili. She felt as if her heart had just sunk into her stomach. "Where have they taken him?" "We don't know," replied the man, but Mekatilili knew that her husband must have been stolen to work on a plantation far away. This was a new kind of slave trade. White people had come from Britain far away to take their land. British businessmen and farmers had started sisal plantations near Malindi. Others farmed rubber and cashew nut trees. They needed many people to work on these huge farms, and they did not want to pay them. The British people had set up a government in the country. They captured strong young men from Gidiyama and forced them to work on these farms. This was slave labor, no less than the kind from long ago. If Mekatilili's husband had disappeared into one of these plantations, he might escape. Mekatilili waited and waited, but no word ever came. Even as Mekatilili tried to carry on her life as she took care of the animals, fetched water, and worked hard on her crops in the farm, she saw things happening around her. She watched silently as her beloved parents became ill and passed away. She was mourning her husband. She was watching the actions of the British, beating up people and forcing their men into slave labor. A deep anger burned inside her, hotter and hotter. On days when she went into the market, she found some relief talking with the other women from the area. My family had to pay so much tax, there's almost no food left for my family, cried one woman to Mekatilili as they discussed the recent visit of the British tax collectors. What am I going to have left for the children? Yes, and they even wanted to count our grain store as a hut, exclaimed another. This only decreased what we can't put in it. That made the group of women all laugh, even though it was a very serious situation. The tax that the British made the people pay was a hut tax. This meant that each homestead had to pay a tax according to how many houses were in the homestead. Each family had to pay the British something each year, whether it be grains or animals or money. And if a family had more houses, they had to pay more tax. Next time they come, I will not pay, said Mekatilili firmly. But how can you do that? Asked one of the other women. They'll surely destroy everything you have. That's what they did to my neighbor's homestead, cried another. They burnt it up. I can't fear these beasts, replied Mekatilili. They all looked at Mekatilili in admiration for such a brave attitude. Mekatilili's words encouraged the others. My husband talked of taking down all but one of the huts just before they come the next time, said one of the women. Yes, that is another way, replied Mekatilili, and we will know when they are coming, put in another. Those animals can't do anything quietly around here. You can hear their noise half a day's walk through the forest. Again, everyone laughed. Conversations like this one became more and more frequent. Mekatilili urged the women to stay away from the alien customs of the British, their strange religion, their language, their way of dressing. Let us not adopt their ways, she urged them again and again. We must keep our Gideama customs strong always. The women listened to her. She had a spirit in her like a fire that would not be put out, and it spread to the other women. Mipopo's prophecy was beginning to come true. All right. So that is the end of that chapter. We'll continue the next chapter, the first resistance. Now, this book is not real long, so we only have couple more chapters left to go. Maybe about, it's like 3 or 4 chapters left to go. But the story is starting to pick up, as you can see. So you're getting an idea of where this story is going. It parallels some of the poetry I've been reading by the last poets. So if you think there was I was just reading those just to be reading them. No, I was reading them because I can read our history all day long. And these kinds of stories continue to come up. Stories of struggle, stories of strife, stories of perseverance, perspicacity, and outright, what's the word for it? A faith that's undying for a better day. So those are the kind of stories that I'm reading, contrary to what you've been reading or what you've been seeing on TV, because you don't see these kind of stories on TV. You only find these stories exclusively right here at Black Facts. So we will urge y'all to keep on coming, keep on listening, keep on sharing these stories. That's the most important part. Don't just listen to the stories and then go back to whatever it was you were doing. Share these stories with your family and your friends. We've got them enshrined here on YouTube and on Facebook, so you can always send your friends and your family here, and they can hear the stories directly if you can't remember the stories. But if you can remember them, you can pass them on verbally. But we need to use every means possible. Now, our electric went out yesterday because we're living in a third world country over here in Ohio. So we did miss our 9 o'clock live stream yesterday evening, but we're continuing on. We're trying to make up and just keep everything moving forward. So all that being said, make sure to give us a thumbs up if you're seeing us on YouTube, and then go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done that yet. We need you to do that. That's very important. And if you're seeing us on Facebook, make sure to give us a like, and then do what I just said. Give us a share with a friend or family. You can even give us a share with an enemy, turn them into a frenemy. and you really make me grin at me. Yeah, you'll make me grin. Here to my chin. Meanwhile, keep on keeping on. We'll see you here again on the new day, and we'll keep Mekatilili wa Menza, woman warrior from Kenya.